All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting episode of Designing New Dragons. Join us as we create what may become your new favorite character. So, today, excuse me, apologies for only getting one video out last week. Things have been rough. But we're getting back to this, and then there's probably only going to be one video this week because I'm dealing with stuff for Zelda Universe. But next week we should be back, hopefully, on the regular schedule with a new Discovering New Dragons and all that stuff. That being said, I have been leading up to this since I talked about... since I did the in-depth review of Across the Stars, we're going to build a Space Ranger, folks. As I mentioned before, the Across the Stars source book hasn't, quote-unquote, officially come out. However, if you pre-order the physical copy, you get a PDF for free, and the PDF is out now. So you can get the PDF, you just can't get the physical book. I have ordered the physical book, and it came with the PDF, so I've done it, and that's how I did the review and everything like that. Okay, so, that being said, Across the Stars introduced a bunch of new origins, a bunch of new influences, and 3 new roles. So, because this is the final one, at least for this little bit of Designing New Dragons that we're going to be doing on Power Rangers. Not saying we're never going to build another Power Ranger, just saying that we're going to be moving on soon, because that's how the series goes. I just thought it would be fun to build a new, one of these new Rangers and just see the cool stuff that you can do. Because of just how the system works and everything like that, again, I want to create a character that's higher than level 1 because, again, most of these new roles are what are called advanced spectrum roles, which at level 1 are a little bit more powerful than the rest of the Rangers. And they're meant to be because these are all kind of based on 6th Ranger archetypes. Which, again, very brief explanation. The original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, there were 5, and then Tommy showed up as a 6th Ranger. And the idea of a 6th Ranger is something that happens in Super Sentai and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, I think in every single series. And a 6th Ranger is effectively a character that shows up part way through the season. There was not a Ranger at the beginning. And a lot of times, since the core Ranger team is 5 Power Rangers, the 6th Ranger is literally the 6th. But if you look at something like Dino Thunder, Tommy returns in that, and he's a 6th Ranger. And then you also have Trent the White Ranger, who acts as another 6th Ranger. Or if you go to Jungle Fury, they actually have 3 quote-unquote 6th Rangers in the Spirit Rangers, and they also have the Wolf Ranger, who I think was actually the first Purple Ranger in Power Rangers, who also acts as a 6th Ranger. So as much as the term itself... and they also had the White Rhino Ranger, who acted as a 6th Ranger as well. So as much as the term itself technically comes from the idea that they are the 6th Ranger, 6th Ranger just means the extra Ranger that joins partway through the season. And because of that, they tend to be more powerful than the other Rangers. Whenever a 6th Ranger shows up, they tend to be a little bit more powerful. So last time we built a 5th level character, and we didn't get access to grid powers, which don't show up until 6th level. So I thought it'd be fun for this one to make a 6th level character, just so we could play around a little bit with the grid powers and see the cool stuff. So we're going to build this just like we have before. We're going to start with origin, and then we're going to pick our role, and then we're going to do our influences, and we will just go with this. And I'm going to pull everything right from the Across the Stars, aside from possibly the Zord stuff and things like that, because I don't think there's enough Zord stuff in here for me to build a Zord entirely just from Across the Stars. But I'm going to be using it a lot. So, that being said, let's dive into this. And that probably means Boom. Yep, we got our cool character, our form fillable character sheet here. So let's start with the origin. So origins, the thing with the origins for Across the Stars is they really are designed for space rangers. A lot of these you might have a difficult time creating an earthbound ranger, like with the antagonistic origin. Basically, I guess antagonistic is just kind of rebellion. But other things like hunted, that's a little bit more difficult for like a Earth-based ranger to have, or noble blood. Again, because most Power Rangers are based in the U.S. somewhere, because it's a U.S. franchise, and we don't have royalty or anything like that. Noble blood becomes a little bit more difficult, where you have to get a little more. You have to get a little bit more creative with how you implement it. But theoretically, all of these could be Earth-based origins. Like, they're not 100%. They have to be. However, they do tend to lean a little bit more towards you're from another place. So to start off with, the ones that they have in here: antagonistic, hunted, noble blood, stargazer, traveler, and warrior born. And I kind of like, I'm a sucker for, you know, a noble coming down to join a team, specifically from the idea of, if you go back to kind of the feudal system, what a lot of people tend to kind of forget about the feudal system, because when they think of the feudal system, they think of, oh, rich, you know, kings and that exploiting the serfs, which is not 100% wrong by any measure. It was a relatively exploitative system. However, it was based on the idea that the serfs and the peasants did all of the kind of grunt work. Like, they do the farming, they do a lot of different things, because the role of the nobility was to protect them. Now, did the nobility always do that? No. But the idea behind it was, if you were given a title by the king, you were given that title because you agreed to protect these particular lands, to develop these lands for the king, to pay tribute to the king, and things like that. And that's what nobility was based on, was these people that, yes, they were above the peasants and things like that. But the reason they were, the reason they were given their nobility, is they were supposed to be protecting them and helping to develop the land and everything like that. And so when you look at nobility from that aspect, you can create a nobility that's based on kind of knights and things like that, especially if you look at something like Power Rangers Dino Fury. The lead character is a knight and kind of a bit of nobility. Or if you look at Dino Charge, they actually had a noble join. I think he was the Gold Ranger. I can't remember. So yeah, like, I like the nobility, but I also kind of like this Stargazer, because I really like that archetype of, you know, the character that kind of looks out from their life and just wants something more. And in this particular instance, they're talking about the stars and they want to travel in space. But this is a really, really common thing built into the idea of the hero's journey. Like, if you, everyone uses this as an example, and I know the movie really, really well, so this is how I'll go with it. But Luke Skywalker is kind of based on the idea of the hero's journey. And at the beginning of A New Hope, he's doing everything that he can. He wants to get out of there. He's looking to the stars. He wants to go to the academy, become a pilot, and get off of Tatooine. You know, he's looking for something outside of the mundane life that he lives. And that's kind of how the Stargazer origin works. I think I'm going to go with Stargazer, just because I really, really like that. So I'll read the description here for it. For as long as you remember, you have looked to the heavens, wanting to see the stars. The secrets of the universe felt so close and yet so far away. Focus and dedication were key to breaking away from your world and reaching the stars, and your love of the expanding universe grows with each new piece you discover. So very much an intellectual, very much a longing to learn more, which I really, really like. So I think, yeah, let's go with that. So we're going to go here. Origin is going to be Stargazer. And then starting health, you only get 1 because you didn't spend a whole lot of time, getting all buff and everything. Essence score, you can increase either speed or smarts by 1. And again, I'm going to hold off on doing that. I'm just going to let's put here for right now. Just so I remember that I have to do that. Because I want to wait until I choose my origin or my role to see which one of those is going to be the most useful. I'm thinking smarts is what it's going to be because Stargazer kind of lean towards that. Yeah. And then because your skill training will be based on which one of the users you increase, we'll deal with that in a little bit. And then ground movement is 30 feet. Languages, and then it's the same as that, so English, so native tongue plus 1 additional language for each 3 points of smarts you possess. I should look through the various origins and just see how many, if any, have more than just your language plus 1 per 3 smarts. Because if none of them have that, then there's no reason to list it under every single thing. They could simplify the expression, just go all characters get 1 language. English. Wow, I can't spell at all. English. There we go. All characters just get 1 language plus 1 for each 3 smart points. So we'll deal with that. Then we have our origin benefit. Whenever you normally attempt a skill test to work toward discovery, you do so with 1 upshift. So we can just put here, and I'll just enter here. Skill tests towards discovery upshift 1. There we go. Not kill tests, skill tests. Discovery. It's not that hard to spell, folks. So yeah, we've got our origin benefit. That's everything we need. Let's do introduction. Where influences, perks, and grid powers. Am I just missing it? Royalty. Advanced spectrum rolls. There they go. They don't have a bookmark for the rolls in here. Interesting. So, again, there are 3 different new rolls. There's the Gold Ranger, the Silver Ranger, and the Phantom Ranger. And any of you guys that have been watching this for a little bit know that I'm not a huge fan of the idea that your spectrum color is tied to your role. I don't think that's a really effective way to play Power Rangers, so I basically renamed all of the different roles to not use their spectrum color, and I actually attach the spectrum colors to the origins, and you can have multiple spectrum colors tied to the origins. That being said, I have come up with spectrum role names for the 3 new roles. They are the Gold Ranger. I think this is fairly obvious, is the Protector, because it is a very defensive-oriented one. The Phantom Ranger is the Ghost, for obvious reasons. And then the Silver Ranger, because they are kind of Paladin-like and they are kind of very aggressive weapon-based, I call them the Avenger, simply because Avenger as a class has shown up in a couple different versions of D&D, and it's shown up in other systems as well, and it tends to be a very kind of aggressive weapon-based class. If you look at the Druid Avenger from second edition, it was a kit. It was a very aggressive. It used a scimitar a lot and a flame blade a lot to do a lot of its attacking. If you go to I don't remember if there was Avenger in the third edition, but fourth edition it was actually a class in the second player's handbook. They used just a big old sword, and they were super cool. And then fifth edition, the Vengeance Paladin is effectively the Avenger. So I just felt that the Silver Ranger, the Avenger, just kind of worked well for that. So those are the 3 new titles that I personally would be using. You don't have to use them. I just think they work a little bit better than referring them to colors, because even really even even the creators mentioned that you don't actually have, like, if you're using the Gold Ranger role, you don't actually have to be the Gold Ranger. It's just they model it after a specific Gold Ranger, which in this particular instance, the Gold Ranger themselves, I don't really know what actual Ranger they based the Gold Ranger on, because the Zeo Gold Ranger, also known as the King Ranger in Super Sentai, which, fun fact, while in Power Rangers he's considered the first Gold Ranger, in Super Sentai he's actually considered a Black Ranger, because the majority of his costume is black, and he just simply has a gold shield and some gold armbands and a belt and things like that, which is actually extremely similar to the Green Ranger, where he's mostly green and just has gold trim in some places and the shield and armbands. So yeah, the King Ranger in Super Sentai Old Ranger is actually a Black Ranger, not a Gold Ranger. But that being said, he was not a particularly defensive character in Power Ranger Zero. He was actually a hyper fast character, and he actually had a lot of abilities that did that. But he was very aggressive, and he really wasn't a defensive character much at all. So I don't really know who they based, which Gold Ranger they based this on. I mean, they used the art of the Gold Ranger, and maybe it was based on like the Power Staff and maybe some of the episodes. I know for a fact. One of the creators actually watches some of my videos. If you were watching, what was the inspiration of the Gold Ranger? Am I just missing parts of Power Ranger Zeo because it has been like 20 years since I've watched it? Am I just missing parts where the Gold Ranger did play a very defensive role? Or was it a combination of other Gold Rangers that have existed? That being said, so we have the Gold Ranger, we have the Silver Ranger, and we have the Phantom Ranger. And I've been kind of trying to figure out if I want to make a Phantom Ranger or if I want to make a Gold Ranger, because both of them are really, really cool. Not that the Silver Ranger isn't cool, but I've played a Paladin before, and that's kind of what they are. And I just think the other two ones. So if we go back to the Stargazer option, I think for me personally, with the idea of, this character has always kind of looked to the stars and wanted to go out, I could definitely come up with a character where they became a protector because that was the easiest way for them to go out to the stars. However, the Phantom Ranger, which I call the Ghost, I think just fits better for the Stargazer, for this particular character that I'm coming up with in my head. So I think that's what we're going to do, is we're going to go level 1 right now. So we start at level 1 and then we'll level it up in a little bit. So you have the Stargazer. We're going to call it the Ghost, which again is the Phantom Ranger, but Phantom Ranger, at least then, it's not actually tied to your color. So you technically could just kick Phantom Ranger, but because of the naming convention that I've used, Phantom Ranger doesn't fit, so I'm still going to call it the Ghost. So The Ghost itself, again, there's a ton of lore that I'm not going to go into right now. Mostly because I want people to actually go out and buy this book. Because it's a really great book, and the more we support this system, the more we get of the system. And I want a lot more of this system. I want more threats. I want more interesting roles and perks and other things like that. Like, I want to see cool stuff. But there is so much really cool lore about the Phantom Rangers and how there's like a Phantom Ranger Corps. They almost give me a feeling like the Green Lantern Corps, where they kind of just show up where they're needed and they'll get assignments and stuff like that, and they serve kind of a greater good. But as far as the character itself, first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our essence score increases. So we get a 1 to strength, a 1 to speed, and a 1 to smarts. So we go back here, we can choose speed or smarts for this character. Because of how the Gold Ranger works, I think... I think I want to go speed with this Ranger, just because I like that. So we're going to go speed or smart, so we can get rid of that. And then I'm going to go real quick. I'm going to try that again. I'm going to go real quick back to the origin, because I still need to pick my skill for it. So for speed-based, I can do driving or targeting. I think I'm going to choose targeting, because I think it would be cool to create a Phantom Ranger that, because both the characters we've created thus far have been melee-based characters, I think this would be a cool thing to create a range-based Power Ranger, because we haven't really had one yet. And so I think that'll be cool. The Phantom Ranger himself, we'll see how this works for the Ghost, because I'm not sure. I think some of their abilities are meant to be a little bit more melee based, because they get dashes and stuff like that. But we'll see what it does. So we've got that. So we've got personal power. We start off at 2. I'm gonna put up here real quick. You get 3 personal power per day. There we go. For armor training, I think we can go down here. You have light and medium armor. So where can I put you? I think I'll just put it in notes. So light and medium. It's been a while since I've recorded an episode, so you have to forgive me. I don't remember everything I did. Armor training. Unless it's up here and I forgot that it's up here. Nope. All right, cool. So we've got that. Skill ranks, you get athletics, fitness, and culture. So this one doesn't give a choice. You just get athletics, finesse, which is nice because now we have both targeting and finesse. And then culture. We'll do that, which is cool. And then grid equipment, because it's not quite the same as normal Power Rangers. You get a grid-wide communicator, a phantom key / focus, and then a phantom laser. So yeah, and so already we have our phantom lasers, kind of our weapon, which is cool. And then we have the it's morphin time, which you don't need to worry about, because they can do medium armor. We can just put in here. The armor is +2 because that's what you get for medium. So I generally don't put the it's morphin time thing on the powers, just because we always have them. But the first thing that you get as a level 1 ghost or Phantom Ranger is what's called Phantom Ship. Let's try Phantom Ship, which is your personal Zord. The interesting thing about this is the Phantom Ship in and of itself is a combination vehicle and Zord. So yeah, we will basically design the Phantom ship in a little bit here, but it does mean we're probably going to do different things than we normally would for other things, because it's going to be a little bit more vehicular than that. And then when piloting the Phantom ship, you cannot suffer snags when using the driving skill. So I'm going to put that here. Can't suffer snags when piloting. How about piloting using driving skill? So we have that in there. And then, like normal, 3rd level and then 6th level, you would also get a Zord perk effectively for it. So we'll deal with those towards the end when we'll build the Zord itself. But we have one other thing that we get as part of the 1st level Ranger, which is Phantom Suite. So I'm going to put this in here. Phantom Suite. And at 1st level, you get, while morphed, spend 1 PP to become semi-invisible. Wow, that is impressive how poorly invisible. I cannot type. That is impressive how bad that is. You become semi-invisible. Stay until attack hits evasion defense. We do that. Grants upshift 1 to infiltration stealth, +2 to evasion. And then it gets bigger as you level up. But it doesn't increase until 7th level, so it is going to it's going to say to the +2 here. So we have Phantom Suite done. So that's the role at 1st level. Now we're going to go to the influences. So influences in here are agency, augmented, oathbound, royalty, ship's crew, and that's it. So from those, I kind of like the idea of augmented or oathbound. I'm a sucker for an oath in general. Like I just love characters like that have some sort of thing that they have to do. And being a ghost, that might actually kind of explain what they're doing. Otherwise, Destiny is another one. What if we did augmented oathbound? I think would be interesting. Now, the nice thing about these is the influences. Again, the way that I like to build Power Rangers characters specifically is I like to take 2 influences. Because that requires you to take at least 1 hang-up. Now, augmented actually has a mandatory hang-up. Oathbound itself doesn't. So theoretically, if you wanted to take Oathbound augmented, you could take augmented first and then have the mandatory hang up, and then Oathbound second, and then just have the other hang up because you took a second. But what I was saying before, I like to take 2 influences because I think it makes a more interesting character, and you can mix the influences here with the influences from the core book. And one of the influences you can have is actually if you go to chapter 1, where it's talking about all the different races. One of the influences you can have is actually a racial influence, where you're from a different planet, or a lineage influence, where you're actually from a different planet. I'm not going to do that just because I think augmented Oathbound sounds pretty interesting. And to make things simpler, I'm going to have Oathbound be the first one, and then Augmented will be the second, and we'll have to take the hang up anyway. So we're going to start with Oathbound, which the influence perk So as long as you're acting in line with the concept of your oath, you can re-roll any single skill die result of a natural 1, but must take the second result. And the d20 is not a skill die. So it specifically says you don't get to re-roll the d20 on a nat 1, but you can re-roll the... So re-roll nat 1s on skill die if acting in line with oath. So easy enough, and we'll figure out what the oath is in a second here. I want to finish building the character first. And the second one, we're going to go to Augmented. I haven't quite figured out exactly what the augmentation is going to be, but hopefully we'll figure that out as we're doing this. But the perk, your augment and enhancement grant you a bonus in one of 3 aspects. You may increase your health by 1, gain a +1 to any of your defenses, or choose a skill and gain a constant upshift when using it. So that is going to hinge on, for me personally, that's going to hinge on what kind of augmentation we choose. And they have a list of 10 different augmentations that they could be, that they have suggestions for you. You don't have to use them, but they are alien transplantation, bionic cybernetics, chemical injections, divine blessing, genetic alteration, magic paranormal, mutation, psionic influence, radiation, energy saturation. And then 10 is unknown. You're just different. So let's think about this. So they are oathbound. So they have something. So I like the idea of some sort of divine blessing. That does start getting into a little bit more of the fantasy than a lot of people are used to. And to be perfectly honest, Power Rangers in and of itself strays heavily away from any idea of deities or anything like that. They don't use gods or anything. If you look at Super Sentai, they're everywhere. Like half the Zords are a form of a deity of some sort. They're fighting gods constantly. Just Power Rangers tends to skew away from that, partially because of the American kind of obsession with religion in general, and how many people really gravitate towards anything that describes any sort of religion, and either are hyper for it or hyper against it, or hyper for some kinds of it but hyper against other kinds of it, and so they tend to avoid that. But again, I'm a D&D player. Divine blessings is a thing, so I kind of like the idea that they're augmented specifically because of their oath. So I think we're going to go divine blessing for that. And or choose a skill to gain a constant of when using it. So I think we're going to go with a skill to gain a constant upshift 1 when using it. And I think that needs to link to the Oathbound in some way. So I'm going to go to the notes just so we can have this stuff written down. So we are Oathbound. Helps if I Oathbound and augmented. So augmented is divine blessing, which we'll describe in a second, and then oathbound, our oath. So the core oath concept. So these are the example oaths that you can have. Again, all of these are always examples. If you want to come up with something else, go for it. But I like to start with this because it gives me an idea of what the creators were thinking about when they were doing this. So, oath concept. So you can protect a person or people, protect a specific item or type of items, defend a place or type of place, seek out and confront a person or people, seek out and acquire specific item or type of items, seek out and destroy a specific type of item or a specific item or type of items, uphold an unusual moral code of ethics, spread an unusual moral code of ethics, work towards an epic singular goal, or work to stop an epic singular goal. So these are all really, really generic, which is basically, are you going out to protect someone or something? Are you going out to find someone or something? Are you going out to stop other people from finding someone or something? Or do you just have like a code that you follow? So for this ghost character, I think I like the idea of, especially since it's official, we're never getting this in the US because they've stopped using Sentai footage for Power Rangers. But there is a season of Super Sentai called Pat Ranger versus Lupin Ranger. And the theme was effectively cops and robbers, where you had cop rangers and you had gentleman thief rangers. The Pat Rangers were the cops, and the Lupin Rangers were the gentleman thief rangers, which were based off of Lupin, who is a French. He was basically the kind of archetype of the gentleman thief. And I can't remember the guy that wrote it, but it's a book. It's a French book. Arsène, the character's name is Arsène Lupin. And so they have that kind of thing, like their helmets look like kind of top hats with stuff on it. It's really cool. And they have capes in that. It's just awesome. So I kind of like the idea that this particular ranger has to go out and acquire specific items. And in order to do that, they have been given this divine blessing by someone, because we can effectively call like the Morphin Masters and a lot of characters in the grid, they can be effectively divine if you don't want to bring in like gods and deities and stuff like that. If you want to keep it more kind of the science-based that most Power Ranger series have, we can say that they were, blessed by a Morphin Master or some kind of grid force. Maybe not the Morphin Master, but something that lives inside the grid. They were specifically given a task, and that fits into the Stargazer thing because they wanted to go out into space, and so this kind of cosmic entity approaches them, and goes, "Hey, you want to go to space? Well, if you do this for me, I will give you everything you need to go to space. I'll give you a cool ship. I will give you powers that let you go out there. You just have to do this thing for me." So I kind of like that. So seek out and acquire. What are we going? I thought about, because like the Zeo Crystal has been something that kind of shows up often in Power Ranger stuff, just in general. Like obviously it showed up in Power Rangers Zero, but it's showing up in the Power Rangers comics right now with the storyline in, I think it's Mighty Morphin. They're dealing with the Zeo Cuckoo Crystal. It was talked about in It was talked about in the 2017 Power Rangers movie, and it's just kind of that. So I thought maybe doing a Zeo Crystal, or just what else? I think we just call them. So you're gonna acquire shards of Morphin Grid. The Morphin Grid. Or actually, we can just call it shards of the, not grind. Really? Shards of the grid. So effectively, there are these kind of, and this is how my brain kind of interprets everything from like the Zeo crystals to the power coins to ninja stars, things like that, is they tend to be kind of physical manifestations of the grid. So they have the actual power, and then your morpher in general is going to be what kind of translates that power into your Power Rangers abilities and things like that. So the actual raw power itself is connected to the morphing grid, but it's specifically kind of a crystallized version of the morphing grid. That's how I see them. Whether or not that's supported by the text is arguable, but so I kind of could see that this particular character is meant to go out and basically pick up these little shards of the grid that may not be powerful enough to completely create Power Rangers, but they might be powerful enough that in the wrong hands, they can be used to do bad things. And so this particular ghost goes out and just picks these up before someone can get their hands on them that don't need it. And that could be what brings them into conflict with the Ranger team, is the fact that each one of the Rangers is going to have one of these shards of the grid that they use to morph and everything. And so I think that could be an interesting thing. And so the divine blessing, I think, so we choose one skill to gain a constant upshift 1 when using it. I think we are going to go... I think we're going to go survival, because survival in and of itself... I'm going to look this up before I say the wrong thing. Essence scores and skills. Let's go... survival is a smart-based skill. So science, survival, foraging, specific environment, weather prediction. So I guess it's not really tracking. If we did alertness, because that's also a smart-based skill. So if we do alertness, science is not on there. If we do alertness and eventually get a specialization of investigation, that would kind of be what it is. So I think we're going to call this alertness, because their job is to go and look for these things. So I think, yeah, that's what we're going to do. So for this, we get upshift on all, upshift 1 on all alertness tests. And that's their perk. So go back here. Constant upshift 1 we're using. Yeah, so because I think that makes the most sense, because they're, again, their thing is they go to different planets and they look for these shards of the grid so that they can keep them out of bad people's hands. And so having this kind of divine blessing, this ability to be able to find them better than other people, makes sense. So I like that. I think that's cool. The hang up for this, choose one damage type from the list on pages 170. You have your defenses rounding up when targeted by attacks or other effects that inflict that type of damage on you. Interesting. And here's another thing I find interesting. Unlike other influences, you may choose augmented multiple times, which is choose a different influence perk, benefit, and hang up each time. So that's kind of interesting. This is you can technically be double augmented. So we have to choose a damage type. So let's go to 170. Damage type. Damage types. So we have acid, blunt, cold, electric, energy, fire. So again, let's think about how this works. The divine blessing makes them... Oh, and there's more. Fire, poison, psychic, sharp, sonic. So the divine blessing makes it easier for them to find these things. What if... Because energy is described as laser blasts, raw energy beams, and many other morphing grid items unleash raw energy attacks. If an attack is not a physical force, but cannot be defined by any other type, cold, fire, etc., it is considered to be simply energy damage. So energy is effectively the force damage of the Power Rangers RPG. And what it is it's effectively raw morphing grid energy. And I think it would make sense for this particular character that attacks made by the morphing grid, since their blessing comes directly from the morphing grid, would tend to be hyper effective because the morphing grid have make them hyper aware of how to find things. But by doing that, it also makes it vulnerable to morphing grid energy. I think that's a really interesting hang up. So that's what we're going to do. So energy defense is halved. Defense is are halved against any attack that does energy damage. There we go. We can do that for augmented. So defenses are halved against any attack that does energy damage. So, yeah, I think that makes a really interesting and fun character. Because yes, they need to find these things, but they have to, be careful because if they get hit by just a pure energy-based attack, they're in trouble. It's significantly easier to hurt them with that. So I like that. I think this is interesting. So we've got that. We have the stuff already. We have, again, this has athletics. Speed has both finesse and targeting. Smarts has culture. Social, we don't have any points in. Now, again, we get another 12 points that we can put in the various places. I think getting this up to 7 and using 5 points there makes sense. Smarts, using another 4 points to put that up to 5. So 5 and 4, that's 9. We have 3 points left. I think 2 for social, 2 for strength. Makes sense. So if we add everything up, 5, 7 is 12, 16. That's what we're supposed to have. So I think that works pretty well, and it's going to be a very speedy character. I like speedy characters. They're fun. Now we need to choose one other focus for strength, which I might do conditioning. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. So we're going to do conditioning versus strength because 1 health is already rough. And they have half defense against energy attacks. We need some defense there. Thank you, phone. For speed, however, always like to have 1 in infiltration at least. Or not infiltration, 1 in initiative. For this particular character, they are going to be driving a fair amount. So that's 2. We have a total of 7. And right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 3 more that we can do in here. I think I'm going to move targeting up to a D4. So that's 1. Finesse up to a D4. I might as well... I'll do that as well. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're set on speed. All right, for smarts. We're right now we have only 1 thing in smarts, which is culture right now. We are going to put 3 into alertness. Because again, they are a tracker. So it's 3, 4. We have 1 more thing. We could do something for technology, but I think I want to actually specialize in investigation. Because that's what this character does, is they go and they search for things. And so being able to find stuff, I think that just makes the most sense for this character. And then for social, I think streetwise, especially because I don't see this character being particularly adept at convincing other people of other things. So I think I want to put both things into streetwise, which is basically just understanding how the real world works. So I kind of like that. I think that's kind of cool. And I'll just do this because it makes things easier. And then we do this stuff. So we have 2 plus 0. So morph, that turns into 14, where it's 12 there. Evasion, we get 7. We don't get a bonus to evasion unless we have our thing on. So right now it's going to be 17 morph, 17 there. This will be 5, 0, 0, 0. So we'll do 15. Come on, 15. And cleverness 2, 0, 0 for 12, 12. Okay, so now again, for every 3 points in smarts, we're supposed to have something else. So we're supposed to do another language, and I always forget to do languages. So let's do another language of, let's just call it home planet language. So that they really planet. There we go. English and home planet language, because they're not from Earth. So we'll leave it at that. So yes, now we have the basics of the character themselves. Now again, we are technically supposed to build their Zord as well, because that's part of their first level thing. Because we're going to be getting some Zord perks and stuff like that, I'm not going to build the Zord right now, because I want to level up the character, and then we can do all the Zord perks and everything right all at the same time. So we're going to go from level 1 to level 6, which gives us a lot more things that we get to do, which I think should be really fun. It'll be the first time I've built a character this high in Power Rangers. So I'm going to go back here. And we are Ghost. All right, so at second level, we get a smarts increase, which turns that to 6. At third level, we get a social increase, so it turns to 3. Fourth level, we get a speed increase, so that turns to 8. Fifth level, strength, so it turns to 3. And then sixth level is another smarts, so it turns to 7. All right, so real quick, we get to add 2 more things for smarts. I think I'm going to add a survival, because I think that would make sense for this character. And I like the idea that they're just hyper-focused on this, so I'm going to give them another alertness. They're really, really good at looking for stuff, and they've gotten better as they've gone. Everything else just gets 1 more. So for strength, again, I'm going to do another conditioning, because they're still real squishy. So I'm going to go 3 here. Got that. Speed. I think I'm going to put... I'd like to do a specialization in targeting just to kind of focus on that, but they only have a D4, so I think I'm going to put a D6 into targeting there. And then for social, we have some streetwise. I think at this point, they probably would have learned a little bit of persuasion to be able to deal with people that aren't quite ready to deal with the fact of, hey, I got to take this now. So we got that. So those are all of that. Now we get new features. So got that. Follow through for second level. While morphed and fighting as an individual, first time each round you defeat an enemy target with a might or finesse attack skill test, you may move a distance equal to your burst speed. So that's their special thing, is they are finesse. Immediately make the same attack against another to target. Burst speed ignores all obstacles. So effectively, what follow through is follow through. When you defeat the enemy with might or finesse. And at 6th level, burst speed is 15 feet. Move 15 feet. Make attack. Make same attack against new target. Again, this is really kind of designed more towards a melee-based thing, so having a range-based character, I might change some things around now that I understand how that works. But we'll play with that in a second. I think we're still going to keep the the laser because I like that. But it does mean, effectively, if you can take a creature out, this effectively gives you more actions in a turn, which is very, very useful. And there's no limitation built into it here that I can see. So this is a really, really useful ability. So I think, yeah, I'm going to keep the targeting the way it was. But because we would have gotten that before, we would have... Really? I'm going the wrong way. Because we would have gotten that before or after we... I think we're going to get rid of that. We're going to go to finesse to make them just a little bit better at finesse stuff. Because they are going to be a little bit more finesse-based. So, we got follow through. General perk when you get to 4th level. So we'll do the general perk in a second here. In addition to that, we also get extra attack. And this is just, you get to attack twice. But they do get a 3rd attack when they hit 13th level, so that's kind of cool. And you also get mending the grid. Okay, spend story point to re-roll any failed skill test. Re-roll gets upshift to bonus. So they have this ability where they can effectively, normally if you use a story point, you can only re-roll nat 1s. This, anytime there's a failed skill test, you can actually re-roll it using a story point. And if you do that, they get an upshift to bonus. When I ran my game, I let story points just work as re-rolls in general. So with this, because they still get the upshift to bonus, I would not be 100% against the idea of letting story points be used to re-roll any failed test. But I understand they did want to put some limits to that so that you're not always burning story points anytime. You should fail every so often. However, I think it's a better way to control, to add some limitations to it by limiting the amount of story points that you can give out and giving a lot of other things that you can use the story points for, instead of just saying, well, you can only reroll nat 1s. I think that's a better limiting factor than relegating it only to nat 1s. So that's my 2 cents. It's still pretty cool. And then 6th level, you get a grid power, and they get one more thing called Ageless Knowledge at 6th level. So that's really cool. So we'll go do Ageless Knowledge. And I think I'm going to continue this into the perks. So we're going to go Ageless Knowledge because I'm running out of space in that one. So spend 1 PP and a free action to remove unskilled penalty from a single skill for 1 minute. Also, if one of the creators is looking at this, on page 61 under Ageless Knowledge, the last line of that paragraph, it says penalty from any single kill for 1 minute. You're missing an S on kill to turn it into skill. So slight typo there if you are watching this. Again, page 61 under Ageless Knowledge, last line of that paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth letter from, or fifth word from the left. Kill should be skill. So that's all the powers and everything like that. Again, we get one grid power, and we also get one perk for this character to kind of round the things out. So background bonds, I'm going to put the grid powers here, and then perks, I'll just give a little space and we'll go there for perks. So let's look at the new perks. So they have these new things called form perks, which they retroactively apply to the ninja powers. But it's basically form perks basically give you a specialized morph version that lets you do cool things, and it generally costs at least some personal power points in order to use them when you morph. So I like form perks. I think they're cool. So let's see what we've got here. So one of the perks you can get is Battleizer access. We're not going to give this character a Battleizer, not yet. I think they're a little bit too raw to have a Battleizer yet. There is an augment perk. Which basically gives you another upshift. There's one Daredevil. Not really. Let's keep looking for perks. Focus firepower. We can't do that. So there is a good with both, basically a dual wielding one, which I think is cool. Inspirational leader, that's not what we're doing. Light speed response, maximum personal power 4 or higher, survival at a plus d6. Do we have? I don't think we have survival that high. No, we only, so we couldn't do light speed form. Monster Hunter is kind of cool. Omega enhancement. Oh, I should look at maximum personal power. So what's my personal power? At level 6, it's 4. So that's one thing I forgot, is personal power is up to 4 now. So we go back to perks. Because some of these have prerequisites. And the one I was looking at specifically requires a personal power of 6. They have an Omega enhancement. So I'm like, oh, that's a cool. Or Shadow Morph, which is also cool, but you have to have personal power 6, and I only have 4. Spacewalker. Oh. Turbocharged. Now, the interesting thing about this, turbocharged form technically says 5th level higher, and we are 6th level, but this perk we got was at level 4. So that technically we wouldn't be able to take that because we got the perk at 4. There is a supersonic for that I think might be cool. Not really. Not for what I was looking for. So Spacewalker, SPD access. I know this is super boring right now, but I'm just looking through the different kind of cool things that you can do. I think just because none of these are really fitting the character that I've built here, I think I'm going to go back to the perks in the core book. Just because none of these are really jumping out to me as something that I want for this. We could go with acute because again we've built this character to be very alertness. So acute. You choose a sense, and I think sight would be the one that makes the most sense for this. You get an edge when rolling a skill test for alertness. If your chosen sense can be applied, you get an upwind dice shift on non-alertless skill tests when you can apply some use of your chosen scent. Always alert would also be another thing. It's one of my favorite feats in D&D 5th edition that is vastly undervalued. Is the alert feat, which is effectively you can't be surprised, you can get advantage on initiative rolls. It is massively useful. And they have a version of the alert feat as a perk called Always Alert, which gives you an edge when rolling initiative and you can't be surprised. And that's all it does, but it's unbelievably useful. And I think for a character like this, Always Alert would make a lot of sense. I'm going to look at some other cool stuff. I think I actually like this one, Dodgy. So, and that'll make for a really interesting character. So Dodgy, basically, you get a bonus to your evasion, and on any turn where you do not move more than 5 feet, you may defend as a free action. So if you're not moving, you can take the defend action as a free action, which this particular character would have 6 free actions per turn. Again, because free actions aren't free. It would boost up their evasion defense, which would be really nice because it gets halved when they're attacked by energy. I think I'm going to go Dodgy. So we're going to go perks. Dodgy. It's to evade. How do you spell evasion? Yeah, that's how it goes. +2 to evasion. Defend as free action if moved no more than 5 feet in current turn. So, this makes it really easy. So we can go perks +2. And so that means the regular evasion is now 19, and the morphed evasion is 19. I don't get a bonus for anything else right now. But that's really nice. And then when they have that invisible form, that brings them up to a 21, which is a really nice evasion defense. So we like that. So that is our perk. Let's look at grid powers. So again, there's new grid powers in here, and there's some cool stuff here. So there's one that's called Faster Recharge, which basically increases your personal power regeneration rate. So again, for this particular character, they have a maximum of 4 personal power, but they can only recharge 3 personal power per day. So if they used all 4 of their power in a day, they when they take their long rest effectively, they would only have 3 of those 4. So if you took Faster Recharge, it would increase it to 5. Which just means that they can use their personal power a lot more. Eventually, the Ghost Ranger gets the ability to kind of merge their health and personal power. So that might actually be really useful, because increased personal power basically increases your health as well. But let's look at other stuff. Civilian superpower. If you wanted to have that kind of SPD thing, or Dino Thunder did a lot, where each one of the Dino Thunder Rangers had like an augmentation to themselves. But we're already augmented, so I don't think we need that. So we could do morph modulation, which basically lets us add another 2 to a defense. So we could just create... we could add another 2 to turn it into a normal 21 and a 23. I think at that point we're min-maxing a bit. Prismatic Boon, basically I could take a roll perk from another roll, which would be cool. This could be fun. So Void Warrior. So Void is a new type of damage that's introduced in Across the Stars, and it is specifically described as being a corrupting force that evil grid entities use. And so there's a grid power called Void Warrior, which allows you to burn a personal power as a free action and change the damage inflicted by your unarmed and weapon-based attacks to void damage for the remainder of the scene. And while the grid power is activated, you can't regain personal power. So void damage is meant to be inherently corrupting, and I kind of like the idea, especially since, again, you do have that divine blessing. One of the blessings that they gave you recently is like, okay, well, when you're in bad situations, we're going to let you use void energy to do this. And I think that creates a really interesting character. So grid powers Void Warrior. So spend 1 PP as free action to change damage of unarmed and weapons attacks to void. So again, part of the idea of void, you cannot use void-based weapons without having that grid power. But the new element, the new void, I'll describe what it says, or I'll read the description here. So this weapon utilizes a portion of the energy of consumption and darkness, a taste of the darkness in the heart of the grid's enemies. This rare element damage always ignores any armor bonuses to toughness, but corrupts the thoughts and actions of its wielder over time. Void weapons require special training, such as the Void Warrior General perk, or special access to avoid overwhelming their user. Except the Void Warrior is not a general perk, it is a grid power. So yes, again, if somebody is watching this from the thing, page 77 under Element Void, the second and third lines from the bottom, it says, such as the Void Warrior General perk, it should say grid power instead of general perk there. Again, page 77 under Element Void. So yeah, I like that. I think that's cool. Yeah, no, cool. So now we have a shadow using... Ooh, this is becoming a really cool character. I'm just going to enter here because I have space. Grid powers. Void Warrior. Cool. Cool. So that's everything for the character. Now we need to build their Zord, which is a ship. So we're going to go back here. And I did actually look up how Zords work, and we actually did it effectively how they're supposed to. So I don't think I got anything wrong before. Other than the extra attack was supposed to be, you have a melee weapon attack and a ranged weapon attack for each character. The additional attack that we were supposed to give the Green Ranger, in addition to those, you get to pick another one that does something. So yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. So technically, that character is supposed to have 3 attacks. That was the only thing I got wrong. So that being said, let's do this. So name, this is Phantom Suit. Let's go Phantom Ship. This is called the Phantom Ship. We're going to start with Strength 6, Speed 4, Toughness 17, Evasion 14. It has ground movement 40 feet. And size huge. And then skills. We have Brawn D6, Conditioning 3, Health, it has 6. So Conditioning 3, Might. What are we doing? Broad conditioning thing, driver, autopilot D2. Initiative did a D6. So as you can see, everything adds up. And then, so we'll deal with the melee and weapon. We'll deal with those in a second here. So because this is an advanced spectrum, so there's two other things that you get. You get a spectrum-based Zord feature and then an automatic Zord feature. So the spectrum-based is based on your roll, and automatic is based on the kind of Zords. For the spectrum base, because we're not a core ranger, we get advanced spectrum, which is any of the above, or auxiliary Zord. And auxiliary Zord basically Zord design as an additional component to one or more of the team's Zord megaforms, meaning it commonly has to fight on its own. So I think for this particular character, I think auxiliary Zord makes sense that it's supposed to fight on its own. So features, we're going to go Augs. Where are you? Auxiliary Zord. And that gives us a +2 bonus to strength, so it brings us to 8 strength. 2 bonus to health, brings us to 8 health. +1 damage to melee attacks. Let's go +1. We'll just call this melee. We already have a +1 there. We'll deal with that in just a second. Because we get a +2 to strength, again, just like anything else, we can add additional skills. So I think we're going to go there and there. So bring us up to a 9 and give it a might score if it wants to. Yeah. So we've got that. And then the other one, we get automatic Zord features. And I think the one that makes the most sense would be the Mega Vehicle Zords. Or let's go here. Let's see if they have new stuff here for the Zords. Perks and grid powers. Do they have more stuff for Zords in here? Combining weapons, armor and exoframes, gear, battleizers, vehicles. So they have some new quote-unquote vehicle traits, which technically our Zord is both a vehicle and a Zord. No, they're not really designed to be new stuff. They're just kind of explaining how stuff works. I wonder if they actually have a thing that we can use in here for the if they already have a stat block for the Phantom ship. I doubt it, but I figured I'd look. Oh, Zords and Zord features. All right, so new Zord features. Cool. Me likey this. Because we're gonna get two Zord features. So Solar Zord, Rescue Zords, Omega Power Zord, Galactazords, Delta Max Zords. What is RRR? Galactabeasts, Omega Zords, Rescue Zords, Solar Zords. I like the Solar Zords. They look super badass. Phantom ship. Ah, they have a base Phantom ship. Okay, so we're gonna stop this. We're gonna start with the We're going to start with the Phantom ship. So, base strength 8, speed 4, toughness 19, evasion 14, skill brawn d6, conditioning 3, driving d2, initiative plus d6. We've got that. No might. Zord features. It's auxiliary Zord. So we have call to action, which is just how they morph. I normally don't leave that on because it's every Zord has that. And we have enhance laser barrage, which is its ranged attack. 0G. And then this is laser barrage. Jesus. Targeting. So range 50, 120, and does 2 laser damage, and then ramming prow might. Oops, if I actually spell this right, 50/120. I can put feet into there. All right. So range is reach. And then effect 3 blunt. All right. So we have, that's the base Phantom ship, and it's got everything in there. For anyone wondering what 0G means, before I say the wrong thing, Zord Gate's an aerial movement type of 60-30 and is fully capable of moving unhindered in the vacuum safe. So movement is 60-30. I'm going to go here. So 60 is the ground, and then 30 is the aerial. So that's how that goes. So that's where the 0G comes from. And now, again, because at 3rd level and 6th level we get a Zord perk, now we can actually add 2 new perks to do this. I kind of wish they had that stat block somewhere closer to the Phantom Ranger because it's built into the character. But whatever, I found it. It works. Vehicles. Space base. Thanks. Come on. Give me back. Okay, so. New Zord stuff. So new Zord features. We could go anti-armor. One of the Zord's attacks gets the anti-tank and wrecker trait, weapon trait, and the special trait of critical effect reduces target's armor by 2 for the remainder of the scene. So that would be cool. Light speed boost we can't do. Mega Fire we don't want. This is kind of cool. So Power Flux. After any scene involving your Zord, the piloting Power Ranger and any Power Rangers or characters possessing personal power in the crew compartment regain 6 personal power each. That would be really cool and kind of fit with the character itself. RRR is Rapid Rescue Response. Any damage being currently inside the cockpit or crew component of your Zord has a 50% chance to regain 1 health at the end of every round. So that's kind of cool. RRR basically means it turns into a healing thing. So here's one. So Void Shield. Learning from the text inside of the enemy of the grid. Attacking with the Void trait no longer ignores bonuses to your Zord's armor, and your Zord gains resistance to Void damage. So I think that makes sense. So we're going to go Void, really? Void Shield, which is Void attacks don't ignore armor bonus against you. Resistance to void damage. So, again, with the character themselves being more void based, I think it would make sense for them to have that. We get one more. So shield natures. I could add shields to it, which basically... So there's a vehicle trait called Shielded, which I'll describe it right now. So battleizers, so Shielded. So a force field, shielding ray, or other energy-based protector. Each turn, the first listed number of attacks or damaging effects against this vessel suffer a snag. So effectively, if you have a shield of 2, the first 2 attacks against it have a snag against that attack because of the shields. I kind of like that. I wasn't expecting to create this character to be a very kind of defense-oriented character, but it's kind of working. This is kind of cool. So tactical size shift. Your Zord can reconfigure its chassis, either bulking up and increasing its overall structure, slimming down and streamlining the machine. When you choose a Zord feature, you select one of the following options. Increase size class by 1 category, maximum of towering, and gain 2 health, a strength essence, or decrease size class by 1 category, gain 10 feet of movement, 1 speed essence, and something for speed. So that would be kind of cool because right now the Phantom ship is huge and we could turn it into effectively long, making it much more vehicle shaped, which is kind of what it's supposed to be. The other one I thought kind of interesting, you could add sentience, which might be interesting. I think I'm going to go Shield Matrix. I think I like that one. So Shield Matrix. So that means they have shielded, wow, S-I-E-L-D-E-D, shielded 2. So for this one, that means every turn, the first 2 attacks against this Zord have a snag on their thing, which I think that's what it is. It's either turn or scene. We are looking. Right, so let me just... each turn, yeah, so each turn, that's be very, very useful. And that does kind of fit how everything works here. So we have laser barrage targeting, which uses the ranger's targeting skill, because you notice there's no targeting here. So now we know what that targeting is going to be used for. And then ramming power that uses the might, I think, of the ship for that. So yeah, otherwise that's the Zord. And then the final thing we need to do is we need to define our Phantom laser, really. Which I'm going to go to Tools of the Trade, and I'm going to see if they have the Phantom Ranger. Let's go view, page display. Here we go. So I'm going to check to see if they have the Phantom Ranger in here. Or the Phantom Laser, whatever it's called. Phantom Laser. Okay, so we do have it here. And just because this has become a very, very long video, I don't want to recreate anything. So weapon, we're going to go Phantom Laser. Range 100, 200. Hands 1, and I totally did the wrong ones. 8200. Traits is laser power weapon. Attack is targeting. Effect is 2 laser damage. An alternate effect is... I want to see if it'll let me do this or not. I doubt it will, because I think we tried this before. Copy. Oh, it did let me. So there's downshift 1. Cool. So downshift 1, so we'll go armor piercing for downshift 1. So that's the Phantom Laser. So it's a laser power weapon targeting 2 laser damage, armor piercing. So you can downshift it 1 to basically avoid armor. Otherwise, it took a long time to make because there was a lot of stuff we had to do for this, and I had to kind of train and teach myself how to do this. We've got ourselves a character. Let's give them a name because they're from space. I like the name Orin. I think it's a cool name just in general. There actually was a character in, I think, Turbo called Orin the Conqueror. But I think they spelled the name differently. I like the name Orin. I think it's cool. And this is our Ghost Ranger. So kind of final overview. As you can see, at 6th level, the game starts getting real complicated once you start dealing with grid powers and various perks and the Zords and everything like that. Much easier to make level 1 characters than to make level 6. But overall, you can see the augmented Oathbound character, I think, is really interesting. Stargazer, I think, adds a unique touch to the character. Very, very speed focused, with decent finesse and decent targeting. And a few other things. Driving is very important to it as well. But the big thing it does is just looking and investigating stuff, which I think is kind of cool. We have that cool dodgy perk, which I like, and then the Void Warrior grid power, the Phantom Laser, which we didn't have to design, but you can if you want to. And the laser damage specifically does give it the option to basically paint a target. That's what laser damage type is, another alternate effect that you can do. And then the Phantom Ship Zord, I think, is really interesting. So, yeah, overall, cool character. Really, really fun idea of a character that I think would be a blast to play. But anyway, that is going to be all for me today. As always, remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to turn notifications on. All those things are super, super important in the comments down below. This character specifically, if you were to redesign the Phantom Laser, what cool things would you want the Phantom Laser to be able to do that maybe fits in with the Phantom Ranger kit? Let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, again, that's all for me today, and I will see you guys in the next time. All right? Bye-bye.